It is my honor to call this 162nd annual communication to order for the purposes of installing the officers-elect to govern this lodge for the year 2021. Before we get started, I want to tell you a little history real shortly about the hat that I'm wearing, because I was asked where I found it or how did it come about. If you remember, in 1990, we passed a resolution acknowledging Prince Hall. I then was invited later to come up to Fred U. Harris here in Olympia 1, where I saw the worshipful master of that lodge wearing a hat like this. And I said, wow, that's impressive. And so shortly after that, I went and ordered one. And when I was installed as worshipful master of Shayless number 28 in 1990, for the 90-91 year, I wore this hat during my whole year. And after, if you remember, we just put out a letter of joint unity between Prince Hall and the Grand Lodge of Washington. And I thought, you know what? What better time to wear a hat that symbolizes our unity, at least in my heart, when I first attended a lodge of Prince Hall, Fred U. Harris, in here in Olympia. So with that said, I'd like to announce the officers who will be installing this Grand Lodge team for the year 2021. The installing Grand Master will be Most Worshipful Brother Gale H. Kenney, assisted by Most Worshipful Brother Warren R. Schoeben. So if you gentlemen would please take your places, I will now turn the gavel and the hat over to our installing Most Worshipful Brother Gale Kenney.
Brethren, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the 163rd installation of officers of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Washington. Brother Secretary, will you read from your records the names of the Grand Officers-elect to be installed? As their names are called, they will stand in place, but at this time, because we're doing it a little differently, I will be taking in one brother at a time as we go. Please give that, sir.
The following officers are to be installed to govern the lodge for the 2021 year. Grand Master, Most Worshipful Brother Chris J. Hoffman. Deputy Grand Master, Right Worshipful Brother Cameron M. Bailey. Senior Grand Warden, Right Worshipful Brother Edward C. Woods. Junior Grand Warden, Right Worshipful Brother Stephen C. Martin. Grand Secretary, Right Worshipful Brother Clinton M. Brown Jr. Most Worshipful Master.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Sir. Brother Grand Marshal, you will present the Grand Master-elect.
Most Worshipful Sir, I have the honor to present to you for installation Brother Chris J. Kaufman, who has been duly elected Most Worshipful Grand Master of Masons for the ensuing year and signifies his acceptance of said office.
Let him face the west. Brethren, you are here, behold, right worshipful brother Chris J. Kaufman. Did I say that right, Chris? Who, having been duly elected to preside over the craft as Grand Master of the most worshipful Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Washington, is now presented for installation. If any of you know of any reason why he should not be installed into that high office, let it now be made known, or forever hold your peace. There being no objections, Brother Grand Marshal, you will conduct our brother to the altar, there, in due form, facing the east, to receive the benefit of prayer and take upon himself his official obligation. Would everybody please rise?
Brethren, let us pray. Almighty and most merciful Father, eternal source of life and light, with adoration and praise we reverently bow before thy throne. We humbly implore thy divine favor upon the services in which we are now engaged. May the lessons taught, the duties imposed, and obligations assumed be productive of great good to us all. May they inspire our hearts with more ardent love to thee, to each other, and to the whole of brotherhood of man. Incite in us, we entreat thee, a higher ambition to do thy will and greater faithfulness in obedience to thy law. Bless, O our Father, thy servant now before thee, who is about to enter upon duties of great responsibility and assume new and important relations to his brethren. Endow him plenteously with divine wisdom, strength, and love, that he may be able to rule and govern in thy fear, that thy name may be glorified, and the best interests of the brotherhood promoted through his administration and guardian care. We invoke thy blessing upon the brethren associated with him in office. May they feel a just sense of their accountability to thee and to the fraternity. May they ever be faithful and zealous in duty and assist in upholding the hands of their chief in every good work and way. Bless, we beseech thee, our Grand Lodge and its subordinates, and all the brotherhood wheresoever dispersed. Be thou our friend, guide, and protector in all things. Lead us safely through the unseen vicissitudes of life before us, and bring us all at last to dwell with thee in those mansions of eternal bliss, where there is fullness of joy and pleasures forevermore. Amen.
So might it be.
Brother Chris, would you please repeat your following obligation?
I, Chris Kaufman, do solemnly promise upon the honor of a Mason that in the office of Grand Master of Masons for the jurisdiction of Washington, I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully and impartially, perform all the duties incumbent upon me, that I will strictly comply with the Constitution, laws, rules, and regulations of the most worshipful Grand Lodge, and the usages and customs of free and accepted Masons, and that I will studiously endeavor to enforce obedience to the same from all subject to my authority.
Brethren may be seated. Brother Grand Marshal, you will now conduct the Grand Master-elect to the Grand East. Almost there. Most worshipful brother, for thus you are now entitled to be hailed in inducting you to this high official station, symbolizing the commencement of your government over the craft. I am performing a most solemn duty in doing that. By immemorial usage and the irrevocable landmarks of Masonry, you are invested as Grand Master, with powers and prerogatives which are well nigh absolute. The interest of the craft, for weal and woe, are placed in your hands during your term of office. The good resolutions which have doubtless been formed in your own mind, that these powers shall not be abused or perverted by you, I would gladly strengthen by a word of admonition, which it will not become me to do hereafter to utter. The very consciousness of the possession of a great power will ever make a generous mind cautious and gentle in its exercise. To rule has been the lot of many and requires neither strength of intellect nor soundness of judgment. To rule well has been the fortitude and but of a few, and many justly be the object of an honorable ambition. It is not by the strong arm or iron will that obedience and order, the chief requisites of good government, are secured, but by holding the key to the hearts of men. The office of Grand Master is of great antiquity and respect, and is one of the highest dignities to which we may aspire. Its incumbent, to rule well, should possess and practice several important requisites. As a man, he should be of approved integrity and irreproachable morals, freed from the dominion of hasty temper and ill-governed passions, of good repute in the world, and practicing, as an example of the craft, the cardinal virtues of temperance, fortitude, prudence, and justice. As a citizen, he should be loyal to his government, obedient to its laws, prompt in the duties he owes to society, and a pattern of fidelity as all social domestic relations. As a Mason, he should cling to the old landmarks and be sternly opposed to their infringement, be proficient in the laws, language, and literature of the fraternity, be desirous to learn and adapt to teach. Though not for the time a workman, yet be master of the work and qualified to earn his wages. Be prompt to give aid and relief, and slow to demand it. Be ever mindful that though elevated for a time above his fellows, that he is elevated by them, and that he is yet a craftsman, more securely bound by the craftsman's obligation, and that he should cultivate everywhere and at all times the golden tenets of brotherly love, relief, and truth. As an officer, he should remember, first of all, that he is an individual Mason, sharing in that same respect a common lot with his brethren, and therefore interested in the welfare of everyone and all. Be devoid of undue ostentation and haughty overbearing. Be accessible to all, cultivating the closest friendship and the most ultimate confidence with his associate officers. Be eager to take counsel with brethren and ready to give it. Be patient in investigation and hearing. Be deliberate in judgment, prompt in execution. Be forbearing long and much with evildoers. Be ready to reward good. Be devoid of favoritism and wholly impartial. Be watchful over the treasury, having an eagle eye over every portion of this jurisdiction, and breasting ever the restless spirit of innovation. Such, most worshipful sir, are some of the most important qualifications which a Grand Master should possess, and the leading errors which he should avoid. It may be that most, if not at all, of your predecessors have failed to reach that standard. But it is unattainable, and be it to your purpose to reach it. Your efforts to do so will not be lost in good results to yourself or in their proper appreciation by your brethren, but will afford a bright and shining example to those who shall come after you. I now, with great pleasure, invest you with this jewel of your office, whose symbolic meaning you will now have a new and striking significance to use. I also present you with the emblem of that power with which you are invested, and which in your hands should never be sounded in vain. The Book of Constitutions and the Holy Writings are also placed in your charge, and I would especially call your attention to the latter. In this you find the great living principles upon which Masonry is founded, from which it derives its wisdom, strength, and beauty. This will conform your faith, strengthen your hope, encourage and energize your charity, and direct you to that temple where all is harmony, love, and peace. Lastly, most worshipful sir, it affords me great pleasure to seat you in the Grand East and cover you with that distinction which in your privilege alone to wear. Permit me to say that the honor with which you are now invested is not unworthy a man of the highest position or most distinguished abilities. I now hail, salute, and proclaim you the Grand Master of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Washington. Most Worshipful Sir, would you please rise, call up your lodge. Brethren of this grand jurisdiction, behold your Grand Master. Most Worshipful Grand Master, behold your brethren. Brethren, join in giving the grand honors, taking my lead.
Thank you, brethren all.
I think I'm done. You need to see them here.
Will you continue, please?
Oh, sure.
Nice try.
Can I present him with something?
Yes, you may present with something.
Most Worshipful Grand Master, it is my pleasure to give you at this time the Grand Lodge seal, which is yours to use and to hold, and this jewel, the Grand Master's ring, which I will open and present to you. If you would, open it and acknowledge the fact that it is there.
Thank you, most worshipful sir.
Thank you.
I very much appreciate it.
Wear it proudly, my brother, and pass it on to the next person. So if you'd like to put it back in here, so we can secure it and protect it.
Let us do that.
With that, I wish you a very pleasant and happy year. my
Thank you,
brother.
most worshipful sir.
Don't lose that ring.
Stay.
Brother Grand Marshal, conduct the Deputy Grand Master-elect to the altar.
It does get that way, doesn't it?
You can put your hat back on.
No. It's a sauna under there.
Well, it is.
But thanks for asking.
It's warm up there.
It is. My brother, having signified your acceptance of and readiness to be installed into the place of trust and honor to which you have been respectively called, you will place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I do solemnly promise upon the honor of a Mason,
I do solemnly promise upon the honor of a Mason,
and in the presence of this Grand Lodge,
and in the presence of this Grand Lodge
of free and accepted Masons,
of free and accepted Masons,
that I will conform to the Constitution,
that I will conform to the Constitution,
laws, rules, and regulations
laws, rules, and regulations
of this most worshipful Grand Lodge,
of this most worshipful Grand Lodge,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
perform all duties incumbent upon my office.
perform all duties incumbent upon my office.
Brother Grand Marshal, you'll present the Deputy Grand Master-elect to the east.
Most worshipful sir, I have the honor to present to you for installation Brother Cameron M. Bailey, who has been duly elected Deputy Grand Master of Masons for the ensuing year and signifies his acceptance of said office.
Right, worshipful Brother Cameron. It's a mouthful. You have not been an inattentive observer of the ceremony of installing the most worshipful Grand Master. For you are aware that in case of his incapacity to act in contingencies mentioned in our Constitution, you succeed to his duties and prerogatives, as you do also when acting in his substitution in any matter specially delegated to you. Your office is therefore one of great dignity and importance, and it is in view of these considerations that your brethren selected you to fill it. Treasure up, therefore, the suggestions made to the most worshipful Grand Master, for you know not how soon they may have a personal application to you. And remember also that usage, as well as our particular regulations, have placed you in most imminent and confidential relations to him as supporter and counselor. We now with pleasure proceed to invest you with your jewel of office. And proclaim you Deputy Grand Master of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Washington. You will now be seated in your place, which is at the right hand of the Most Worshipful Grand Master.
Brother Grand Marshal, you will conduct the Senior Grand Warden to the altar. My brother, having signified your acceptance of and readiness to be installed into the place of trust and honor to which you have been respectively called, you will place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I do solemnly promise.
I do solemnly promise.
Upon the honor of a Mason.
Upon the honor of a Mason.
And in the presence of this Grand Lodge.
And in the presence of this Grand Lodge.
Of free and accepted Masons.
Of free and accepted Masons.
That I will conform to the constitutions.
That I will conform to the constitutions.
Laws, rules, and regulations.
Laws, rules, and regulations.
Of this most worshipful Grand Lodge.
Of this most worshipful Grand Lodge.
And that I will, to the best of my ability.
And that I will, to the best of my ability.
Perform all the duties.
Perform all the duties.
Incumbent upon my office.
Incumbent upon my office.
Brother Grand Marshal, you will conduct our brother to the Grand East.
Most worshipful sir, I have the privilege and honor to present to you for installation Right Worship Brother Edward C. Woods, who is to be installed as Senior Grand Warden for the ensuing year.
Right Worshipful Brother, by the suffrages of your brethren, you have been elected their Senior Grand Warden, and we now invest you with the badge of your office. The position which you occupy in the Grand Lodge and among the fraternity is one of no little importance. In the Grand Lodge, to aid in the preservation of order, and at all times to render counsel and advice to the Grand Master are high and responsible duties requiring circumspection, vigilance, and reflection. When to these is superadded the more onerous labor, in conjunction with the Junior Grand Warden, of diligently preserving the ancient landmarks throughout the jurisdiction, it becomes a trust of deep moment to the welfare of the craft. Your fitness for the discharge of such a trust undoubtedly led to your selection for the office by your brethren, and it will be your duty and pleasure to act so as to justify their confidence. Look well to the west.
Brother Grand Marshal, you'll conduct the Junior Grand Warden-elect to the altar. My brother, having signified your acceptance of and readiness to be installed into the place of trust and honor to which you have been respectively called, you will place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I do solemnly promise upon the honor of a Mason,
I do solemnly promise upon the honor of a Mason,
and in the presence of this Grand Lodge
and in the presence of this Grand Lodge
of free and accepted Masons,
of free and accepted Masons,
that I will conform to the Constitution,
that I will conform to the Constitution,
laws, rules, and regulations
laws, rules, and regulations
of this most worshipful Grand Lodge,
of this most worshipful Grand Lodge,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
perform all the duties incumbent upon my office.
perform all the duties incumbent upon my office.
Brother Grand Marshal, you will present the Junior Grand Warden-elect to the east.
Most worshipful sir, I have the honor to present to you for installation Brother Steve C. Martin, who has been duly elected Junior Grand Warden of Masons for the ensuing year and signifies his acceptance of said office.
Right, Worshipful Brother Steve. As the duties of your office and the qualification for it are almost identical with those of the Senior Grand Warden, I will only add to the charge given to that officer that you be equally vigilant and circumspect, not only at your station in the Grand Lodge, but in the broader field of action without, dividing with him his labors and taking due care that the great objective of your united solicitude shall remain inviolate. Accept the jewel of your office, and repair to the south, being ever watchful, whether at labor or at refreshment, that the high 12 of observation does not find you with your work and that of the craft you superintend unperformed. Look well to the south. Yeah.
Brother Grand Marshal, you'll conduct the Grand Secretary-elect to the altar.
It takes longer steps, they'll catch up to me.
My brother, having signified your acceptance of and readiness to be installed into the place of trust and honor to which you have been respectively called, you will place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I do solemnly promise, upon the honor of a Mason, and in the presence of this Grand Lodge, of free and accepted Masons, that I will conform to the Constitution, laws, rules, and regulations of this most worshipful Grand Lodge, and that I will, to the best of my ability, perform all the duties incumbent upon my office. Brother Grand Marshal, you will present the Deputy Grand Secretary
Just the
to
Grand
the
Secretary.
Grand East.
This got you somewhere. Most worshipful sir, I have the distinct privilege and honor to present to you for installation Right Worshipful Brother Clinton M. Brown, Jr., to be installed as Grand Secretary for the ensuing year.
Right Worshipful Brother, usage as well as positive enactments from time to time have rendered the duties of the office of Grand Secretary more onerous and varied than that of any other office. Brought by his official position more immediately into communication with the whole body of the fraternity, it is requisite that he should possess ability, skill, and industry to meet the various demands upon him. Placed in a position where he holds almost constant correspondence with our Masonic brethren of every state and country, upon him devolves a large degree and upon the good name and credit of the Masonic family of this state. The fraternity should enable him to maintain it. He should strive that it be maintained. Courtesy and patience are to be elements in his manners of character. Vigilance and fidelity are also necessary qualities. Our constitutions, my brother, point out to you fully the duties of your office, and I will not recapitulate them. Your capability for the prompt and faithful execution has induced your brethren to confide this trust to you, and I feel assured that it is well placed. In investing you with your official jewel, the pens, I am persuaded that they will make an enduring record, not only to your praise, but to the welfare of a craft so largely dependent upon your experience and integrity. Congratulations.
Yeah, I know. Excited. Congratulations, my brother. Brother Grand Secretary, you will read the names of the brothers who have been appointed to serve as officers for the ensuing term.
Worshipful Brother, Natural, S. Allah, Grand Chaplain.
No.
Let's try that again, Most Worshipful.
Okay.
Worshipful Brother, Natural, S. Allah, Grand Chaplain. Worshipful Brother, Aaron L. Simon, Grand Lecturer. Worshipful Brother, Patrick W. Webb, Grand Orator. Very Worshipful, Gordon S. Johnson, Grand Historian. Very Worshipful, William A. Clark, Grand Marshal. Worshipful Jerry D. Berger, Senior Grand Deacon. Worshipful Brother Raymont C. Jackson, Junior Grand Deacon. Worshipful Brian L. Donosky, Grand Standard Bearer. Worshipful Brother Manfred Tapp, Grand Sword Bearer. Very Worshipful Brother Ryan K. Leonard, Grand Bible Bearer. Worshipful Brother Norm F. Day, Senior Grand Steward. Worshipful Brother William L. Bialozar, Junior Grand Steward. Worshipful Brother Dale R. Versalovich, Grand Musician. Very Worshipful Frank K. Grunert, Grand Tyler. And very Worshipful Clayton M.M. Levine, Assistant Grand Secretary.
My brothers, I apologize that you're not able to be here for your installation, so we had to short circuit things a little bit. Brethren, I declare these brothers installed in their respective offices in ample form. Brother Grand Secretary, You will read the names of the brothers who have been appointed to serve as deputies of the Grand Master for the ensuing term.
Deputies of the Grand Master for the 2020-2021 year, all very worshipful. District 2, David S. Byrne. District 3, Kenneth E. Bode. District 4, Richard M. Kovac. District 5, Gerald R. Parton. District 6, Martin E. Monk. District 7, John E. Gebhardt. District 8, Larry D. Foley. District 9, Mike J. Tando. District 10, Kurt E. Gazow. District 11, John T. Brash. District 12, William R. Hubbard. District 13, Donald E. Downing. District 14, Joseph L. McAllister. District 15, Mark C. Conley. District 17, Patrick W. Baker. District 18, Ron H. Robbins. District 19, David A. Rice. District 20, Darrell A. Bullard. District 21, Roy E. Sharp. District 22, William F. Carter, Jr. District 23, John R. Lawson. District 24, Michael E. Burton. District 26, Alan F. Snell. District 27, Roger B. Nelson. District 29, Richard W. Coughlin. And last but not least, District number 30, David A. Klosterman. Those are your deputies for 2020-2021, most worshipful sir.
Thank you, Reverend Secretary. And again, I apologize for you not being able to be here. Very worshipful brethren, you have been appointed to the responsible office of Deputy of the Grand Master in your respective districts. It will be your duty to exercise the general supervision over the craft in your respective districts, to visit all the lodges therein during your term of office, to inspect their labors, examine and inquire into the state of said lodges, and to give them Masonic advice and instructions. Let the Book of Constitutions be your constant guide, that you may be able to preserve inviolate the laws of the institution, and impress upon the lodges in your respective districts the necessity of strict adherence to our lodges. Brethren, I declare these brothers installed as deputies of the Grand Master in their respective districts in ample form. I would ask all the committeemen to rise, but don't worry about it. Okay. Brethren, you've been appointed to the responsible position of committeemen of the Grand Lodge. It will be your duty to fulfill your duties as prescribed in the Washington Masonic Code or as directed by the Grand Master. To you is committed to the programs and plans of the Grand Lodge, and you are admonished to diligently apply yourselves by the square of virtue, the level of equality, and the plumb of morality. Transmit to the constituent lodges the knowledge and lessons that will enable them to flourish and grow in Masonic light. You may be seated. Brother Installing Officer, I return the gavel to you to
Close us out.
close us out. Thank you.
Thank you, Grand Master. Brother Grand Marshal, please make the proclamation.
In the name and by the authority of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Washington, I now proclaim that its grand officers for the ensuing year are amply installed in their respective stations.
Would everybody please rise for the closing benediction?
Turn your phone off.
Supreme Architect of the universe, we thank you for this day and the purpose for our gathering. We are grateful for those who have led in the past with their dedication to the high principles of Masonry and service to our craft. Our newly selected officers continue to need your presence, and we ask that you continue to give them adequate strength to meet the heavy demands of the office. As we continue the journey of life, we ask for your blessed presence. Though there may be doubts and uncertainties, we know you will guide us and strengthen us for what lies ahead. With the day ended and the labor of this task finished, we begin a new day. Keep us safe and secure until we shall meet again. In your name we pray. Amen.
So mote it be.
Most worshipful sir, I now present the gavel back to you and thank you for the distinct privilege and honor of being part of your installing team with Most Worshipful Brother Warren Schoeben.
Thank you very much, Gale. I really appreciate it. And Warren, thank you very much. I so much appreciate having both of you here. See if I can get through this. I remembered. My brothers, I stand before you with so many emotions, it's nearly impossible to explain. I am extremely honored by the trust you've placed in me, and I promise to do everything I can to support our gentle craft, to guide us through these troubled times, and to help assure that we continue for generations to come. This annual event is not quite what any of us really desired, though. I am saddened that Most Worshipful Brother Woody was not able to have the annual communication he expected and deserved. Next year, we will give him the honors he justly deserves. Additionally, I am saddened that my mentor, my father, and one of the biggest supporters of our craft, my mother, are not able to be here. The ravages of time and age have taken them from us before this journey actually began. Pardon me, my brothers. 6 months ago, my partner, the love of my life, was taken from me and my family. The impact of that is immeasurable. We started planning this event the day after I was elected Junior Grand Warden. And as many of you know, Lynn was a planner beyond everything. Pardon me. She had it all laid out for us. And my thanks and sincere gratitude go to Melinda, Carolyn, Robin, Jane, and Jennifer, who have agreed to handle many of the things that she would have done. Your help eases the burden of losing her. One of the first things we did 3 years ago was develop a theme. And we decided that remember the past, visualize the future was particularly fitting. Our thinking was that Masonry needs to remember the contributions of our predecessors. Not only the famous like George Washington, but also the lesser known contributions that continue to support our gentle craft. For example, in 1932-33 Masonic year, the Grand Lodge Home Fund received a $5,000 bequest from the estate of Clara Duncan, as well as numerous other gifts as small as $1, and they're all reported in the annual proceedings. While I know nothing about Clara, I thank her for her continued support. The generosity of Clara and many, many others is how we finance the operations of Grand Lodge and Washington Masonic Charities. I applaud Most Worshipful Brother Woody for his challenge to the brethren to contribute $40 each to Washington Masonic Charities. I likewise challenge us to do so again this year. It is my hope to split those donations between the On the Level Student Success Program, which helps unaccompanied students graduate from high school, and the Washington Masonic Charities Endowment Fund, where those donations will continue to support our charitable activities well into the future, like Clara Duncan did so many years ago. Both of these programs visualize the future. And additionally, I do have coins in the team tie that are available for sale. I do not particularly think of these really as fundraisers, but collectibles. Every year, the Grand Master has his pin, and this year is no different. Lynn's pin is also available. There's no charge for these, but if a brother or a lady wishes to make a donation, we'll take it. The profit from the sale ties and coins, as well as any donations received, will be split between two programs. The first is the Shriners Hospital in Spokane. We all know the good work done by the Shriners Hospitals, and I do not need to explain that to you. The second is one that is very personal to me. It is the Seattle King County Free Health Clinic's Vision Program. Lynn was the vision coordinator there for many years, and she stepped down after I was elected Junior Grand Warden because their clinic was the same time as the Conference of Grand Masters. It couldn't be two places at once. The program provides free eye examinations and glasses to uninsured and underinsured persons from a wide range of locations. This year, they provided prescription eyeglasses to over 1,100 persons. Additionally, they made arrangements for almost 100 more patients to receive free cataract and glaucoma treatments. These patients come from all over the state this year from over 200 distinct zip code areas. This is a worthy cause that we as Masons should be willing and able to support. Many of you know that this is a trying and very hard time for lodges. Pardon me, let me step back. Many of you know that I was trying very hard to visit all the lodges in our jurisdiction before becoming Grand Master. Sadly, I failed in that endeavor. Between the impacts of the COVID-19 virus and the untimely loss of Lynn, many of those scheduled visits had to be postponed. To those few lodges that I missed, I apologize. And I will do everything I can this year to visit you if at all possible. And I want to point out that I didn't do that because I was trying to accomplish some great feat. Rather, I just wanted to hear what the brothers had to say. The only way you can be a leader is to listen. And I was trying to do that. Based on the feedback I received from the brothers, I'm not introducing any new landmark programs or anything. I strongly believe that we have many programs that, if actually used by the lodges, address most of the comments I received. And those programs will assist lodges in thriving. I'll not go through all of them, but I want to mention a couple. One item I heard numerous times from lodges was they needed help getting new members. The television advertisements produced by the Public Relations Committee have been running for a few years. A new nationwide website, beafreemason.org, recently went live. The Grand Lodge office receives inquiries from both of these efforts, and they are referred to the districts and to the lodges as potential members. If the lodges actually contact these men and use the tools that are available to them, like the 6-step program, which we borrowed from BC and Yukon, then we learn about that potential candidate. We learn if that man is a suitable candidate for our degrees. And this is very important. We determine if our lodge is the right one for that man. If he is suitable for Masonry, but your lodge may not be the right place for him, refer him to another lodge in your vicinity that may be a better fit. Additionally, the PR committee can help you let the public know about things you're doing in the lodge. Your lodge is accomplishing, which will help bring interested men to your door. Second major theme I heard was Grand Lodge needs to do a better job communicating with its membership. There are a couple aspects to this. First, Grand Lodge does have several means of communicating We have Grandview, the members portal, which I believe, if I understand correctly, 20% are now registered, roughly. Well, you could do better with that. It can be used by lodges to post their minutes, notices of events, etc. It can also be used for statewide level announcements and other communications. Grand Lodge has the Facebook page, Freemasons of Washington, which is where this is being broadcast. Grand Lodge has a Twitter account, and we send out the monthly Grand Lodge Messenger. However, these platforms will only work if you read them or use them. Additionally, we have YouTube videos we posted. I've attended lodge meetings in this grand jurisdiction where they say Grand Lodge never tells lodges what's happening. I've asked them about, did they know about Grandview, etc. Yes, but we don't use them. Well, I can stand up here all day and yell. If you don't listen or you don't use the things that we've provided, you're never going to hear. It's not going to make any difference. Please use the tools we have. One of the lessons learned by the COVID-19 pandemic is that while we may be separated, we can still communicate. I'm aware of several lodges and districts that have set up weekly virtual meetings where Masonic education is shared and just plain fellowship. Let's not forget this valuable tool when this current crisis is over. However, I remind you to be careful with what you say. My brothers, we live in an age when sending hard copy documents is not the norm. Unless you can get somebody's attention in about 15 seconds, you've lost the chance to communicate. Society as a whole wants instant gratification. We need to move into that reality. But that doesn't mean we lose our values. We've all seen Facebook posts, Twitter feeds, and the like that lack civility or fail that old test. What would your mother think if she saw you doing blank on the evening news? This applies to all of our actions. If you have a Facebook page, Twitter account, or other social media, make sure to use it in a respectful manner. If you identify yourself as a Mason, don't post items that could defame others by name, religion, ethnicity, or race. Remember, we have brothers of every race, religion, creed that are members of good standing in our great fraternity. And you would not look kindly if that brother were to cast aspersions upon you, your family, or your religion. Please don't do so for the others. Masonry must be above the fray and the guiding light back to civility. The second part of this year's theme, Visualize the Future, has multiple meanings. Lynn was an optician, and it seemed only appropriate that a year that starts in 2020 would have vision as part of its theme. You know, that was a foregone conclusion. We need to decide where we want this fraternity to be in 5, 10, 20, 50 years from now. Many of my predecessors have tried to get lodges to develop long-range plans. They've had limited success. Our Grand Lodge has also had limited success with its long-range plan. I believe long-range planning is essential for every organization, but an essential aspect of it is long-range planning seems to be missing. The first step, that's for the lodges and the Grand Lodge to determine what is the reason it exists. And what do the members hope to accomplish? By figuring that out, you can figure out a long-range plan. Visualizing the future also means that you can't just rest in your laurels and the generosity of our predecessors. That's why I am encouraging the brothers to contribute to the Washington Masonic Charities Endowment Funds. There is, however, one initiative this year. Approximately 20 years ago, there was a special committee formed to look at the Grand Lodge committee structure. It's time to do so again. I am appointing a special committee to do a thorough review of our committees, make recommendations as to whether the committee should continue, whether its purpose should change, or whether it just continue as is. And I thank Very Worshipful Brother Matt Apple for agreeing to chair this valuable committee. Most Worshipful Brother Charles issued several edicts concerning the pandemic and the prohibition on in-person meetings. We did this because we were complying with the governor's and the health authorities' directives, and they are starting to reopen parts of the state. While some parts of the state have reached phase 3 of the Safe Start Washington program, there are several counties that are still in phase 1. Your elected officers and the chairman of jurisprudence have held many discussions trying to determine the best way to return to regular lodge meetings, where we can actually again meet on the level. In these discussions, the health and safety of our brothers have been foremost in our minds. Rather than issuing a series of directives concerning the cancellation of in-person meetings, I am directing that all in-person Masonic meetings shall be canceled until further notice. And as kind of an aside here, we are working on trying to figure out a plan to get reopened, but I want to give us some time to get that figured out. This directive applies to continues the authority of the Worshipful Master, Wardens, and Secretary and Treasurer to pay necessary bills and make charitable expenditures until the Lodge can meet again, when those expenditures will be reported to the Lodge. The directive will allow Masonic funerals if the county health authorities allow it. I encourage lodges, districts, and other Masonic organizations to continue to use video conferencing to remain in contact with our brothers and conduct Masonic education. Your executive committee, we just got in here, but we've determined that the video conferencing may be used for a very, very limited purpose for esoteric work. Specifically, 2 brothers, only 2, may practice proficiency, opening and closing lodge, and other esoteric matters using video conferencing, provided that both brothers have determined that the platform is secure and their individual locations would constitute a secure place for instructions. Again, this is limited to 2 brothers only. And for obvious reasons, there is no recording of the video conference. It is strictly prohibited. My brothers, I am humbled by the support I and my family have received over the last 6 months. The outpouring of support demonstrates the greatness of our gentle craft. I don't know how I could have handled the time without the cards, the emails, and the posts. The phone calls from brothers just to check on me are greatly appreciated. A special thanks goes out to Right Worship Brother Clint. He frequently would call me just to say hello and ask if there was anything he could do for me. Thank you, Clint. I very much appreciate it. I'm almost there, guys. It is unfortunate that this installation couldn't be more public. I'm glad that we're able to stream it for others to see. A special thanks goes to Olympia Lodge number 1 and Worshipful Brother Lauren for allowing us to use this building for this annual communication. Organizing an event has been difficult, and with your help, it made it much easier. My heartfelt thanks go to Worshipful Brothers Gale and Warden. It was very important to me to have you as part of my installation. I know that several members of my family also wish to be here, but under the circumstances, obviously, were not. I want to mention them anyway. My brother James, who lives in Hawaii, planned to be here, and so did my sister Peggy, who was a past worthy Grand Matron of OES of Washington. She wanted to officially present this to me as the family gavel I'm using today. And for those who don't know, it was my great-grandfather's. It's been used as heads of organizations something like 25 or 30 times by members of my family over those years. It's very special to all of us, obviously. Let's see. My son and brother Clinton, his children Nevaeh, Annabelle, and Colin, my daughter Sarah, her husband Tanner, and their 5 children, Lucas, Natalie, Rebecca, Caitlin, and Malachi, were going to be here. They were all looking forward to going to Great Wolf this year, and I know you're watching. To Cameron. Cameron. Oh, there you are, Cameron. Hi, Cameron. You're Ed, Steve, and Clint. Thank you for your willingness to serve this great fraternity. I look forward to this year, and it will be a success because of your participation. To my appointed officers, thank you for agreeing to be part of this team. You were appreciated beyond what you might realize. I think it is very important that as we visualize the future, the Grand Lodge officers should not always be the same brothers year after year. This year, I had the privilege of appointing 14 officers. Clint had one. 13 of those brothers had never held a Grand Lodge office before. Thought that was very important. Their average age, by the way, is 58. I thought it was also important to have brothers from throughout the state. Too often in the past, there's been a feeling among some that Grand Lodge is just a bunch of guys on the west side. I will tell you that that is not what any of your elected officers feel, and you may note that 7 of those 14 brothers I appointed live in eastern Washington, and 7 in western Washington, and every one of them deserves the position they're in. To my deputies and committeemen, thank you for your service. And lastly, I know that Lynn and my parents are looking from above, and I hope I can live up to your expectations. Remember the past and visualize the future. Thank you, my brothers. Okay, enough of that. Okay. Can I get somebody to bring Woody up here? I know he's outside somewhere. Thank you. Got through it. In fact, I think I'm just going to meet you down here. It's easier. You had a great year, Woody, and I congratulate you, and I'm sorry that you weren't able to have what you really wanted. I have the privilege of presenting to you your past Grand Master's jewel, and wear it with pride. Yeah.
Grandmaster, can do everything I can do. You know where I'm at,
I know how to get a hold of you.
and I know you're going to have a great year.
Thank you.
You got a great team.
Yeah, I do.
We are really privileged to have this team behind you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Woody.
Thank you.
You
Bye.
have a good day. Okay. Are there any presentations? Probably not, because there's nobody here, but I just thought I'd check. No presentations? Brethren, thank you so much for those who are watching on Facebook. Thank you for participating in this in some minor way. And with that, I call this installation to a conclusion. The elected will remain here so we can close Grand Lodge. And we hopefully will see each other all soon. Thank you very much.